When Lewis Hamilton joined Mercedes in 2013 from McLaren, he was paired alongside old karting teammate and friend Nico Rosberg. It began as a boyhood friendship, but over the course of their 4 years together at Mercedes, it blossomed into one of Formula One's best rivalries. Let's take a look at how fierce their rivalry was and why Nico Rosberg still hates Lewis Hamilton. Stay tuned. The first time that Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg ever raced together was during their karting days back in 2000. It was during these times that the pair became inseparably close friends. Nico and Lewis would eventually have to go their separate ways to pursue their individual racing careers. As fate would have it, both of them would eventually end up in Formula One at the same time. Rosberg made his debut with Williams before moving on to Mercedes, while Hamilton would enter the championship with McLaren and go on to win the Drivers' Championship in 2008. When Lewis Hamilton switched from McLaren to Mercedes in 2013, they reunited as teammates. But this time round, they were not just teammates, but fierce rivals. Although there were minor disagreements between the two teammates in 2013, the true beginning of their rivalry did not come until the 2014 Bahrain Grand Prix. The Mercedes driver had the most dominant car on the grid in 2014, and they competed against one another in a traditional wheel-to-wheel battle for the win in Bahrain. Both Mercedes drivers engaged in a heated competition with one another for the entirety of the race. A late safety car had given the impression that the race was going to be won by Rosberg, who was on a better tyre than Hamilton. But after the restart, Hamilton held his ground in a thrilling wheel-to-wheel encounter that ended without the Mercedes cars making contact with one another. Hamilton won the race. In Parc Ferme, the pair engaged in a mock fight after the race, bringing back memories of their time spent competing in karting. In the aftermath, Mercedes received praise for allowing its drivers to compete. There was no animosity, no previous flashpoints to speak of, and the championship was unfolding in a manner that was largely respectful between two men who considered the other to be an old friend. However, there was more to the race than met the eye. It was later discovered that Rosberg had utilized engine modes that Mercedes had forbidden in order to give himself a power edge over Hamilton in the final laps of the race. It was a line crossed, and Hamilton would respond in kind later in the season. You're enjoying this video, right? You definitely don't want to miss out on other amazing videos. So all you have to do is hit the subscription button. It's that easy. Thanks for doing that. Let's move on. After Hamilton won his fourth consecutive race in Spain, he took the lead in the competition for the 2014 championship. To accomplish this, he had to fight off a late challenge from Rosberg, ultimately finishing the race only 0.6 seconds ahead of the German. Rosberg believed that if the race had continued for one more lap, he would have caught and passed Hamilton. Rosberg did not know until he left Spain that Hamilton had only kept him at bay by using the same prohibited engine modes that Rosberg had used in Bahrain. Heading to Monaco, the gloves came off. What took place at the 2014 Monaco Grand Prix is still controversial. In the latter stages of Q3, both Mercedes drivers started a lap. Rosberg went first, followed by Hamilton. Rosberg's earlier Q3 attempt had given him a provisional pole, but then he made a very odd mistake, which caused him to run deep and into a slip road. This resulted in yellow flags being waved and forced Hamilton to abort a lap that he believed was already good enough for pole position. Despite the fact that the stewards exonerated Rosberg of any wrongdoing, Hamilton was certain that Rosberg had purposefully parked his car, and he said that the data provided by Mercedes supported his opinion. The next day, Rosberg capitalized on his pole position by claiming victory, putting an end to Hamilton's streak of 4 consecutive victories. It propelled the German back into the championship lead. Before the race in Budapest, Rosberg held a championship advantage over Hamilton of over 14 points. It appeared that Rosberg would have an even greater advantage going into the summer break after he qualified in pole position, while Hamilton's engine broke down during the qualifying session. After starting from the pit lane, Hamilton fought his way back into contention, but a safety car in the middle of the race shuffled the order, putting Rosberg behind his teammate but on a different strategy. When Rosberg got closer, Mercedes requested Hamilton to move over since they knew the German would have to stop for fresh tyres. Hamilton refused. In his refusal, Hamilton cited that he had fought his way up from the last place and that he was unwilling to slow down to allow Rosberg, his title challenger, who had started from pole position, to pass. Hamilton's decision meant he held on to third, which allowed him to keep Rosberg at bay in the closing stages after his pit stop. Rosberg went into the summer break seething at the perceived injustice and the lack of punishment for what he considered Hamilton's blatant refusal to be a team player. Those angry feelings that Rosberg harbored for 4 weeks would eventually come back to bite him. The German driver, who was in second place behind Hamilton on the second lap of the Spa-Francorchamps race, made an awkward attempt to go outside the Lecombe chicane, the move led to contact, giving Hamilton a puncture and knocking him out of the race contention. Rosberg would eventually recover to finish second behind Daniel Ricciardo, but it was later revealed that the German had left the nose of his car in order to prove a point to his British teammate by not backing out. This was the culmination of all Rosberg's frustrations he had experienced in Hungary. Mercedes gave Rosberg a punishment and he was booed as he was on the podium. Even though he left Spa with the lead in the championship by 29 points, the incident would ultimately tip the scales in favour of Hamilton. Following his victory in Belgium, Lewis Hamilton went on to win 6 of the final 7 races, giving him his second Drivers' Championship. 2 of those wins involved catching and passing Rosberg on track at Suzuka and Austin. The second victory that Lewis Hamilton took in 2015 was flawless, but it was not without its share of controversy. Hamilton was asked to pick up the pace.
Lewis is driving very slowly, so get him to speed up.
When Rosberg suggested he was backing him into Sebastian Vettel. At the time, Hamilton and Rosberg were leading a 1-2 early in the race ahead of Ferrari, who had taken an unexpected win in Malaysia. Rosberg, who finished in second place, said that Hamilton had slowed, compromising his race. The accusation did not affect Hamilton, and he responded, "It's not my job to look after Nico's race. It's my job to manage the car and bring the car home as healthy and as fast as possible. That's what I did." The victory was Hamilton's second of 2015, and he would go on to dominate the first part of the year. The rivalry that season did not have the same level of intensity as it did in 2014. The championship winner for 2016 was going to be decided in Abu Dhabi. Before the start of the race, Rosberg had a 12-point advantage over Hamilton. For the most part, the race was relatively uneventful, until the end that is. Lewis was in the lead for the majority of the later stages of the race, while Nico was right behind him. Because Rosberg would win if they continued in that formation, Hamilton purposefully slowed down, against his team's orders, to assist Vettel and Verstappen to pass his teammate. In the end, this did not happen, and Rosberg took home the trophy for the Drivers' Championship. In less than a week after winning his first championship, Nico Rosberg shocked the racing world by announcing that he would retire from Formula One. He justified his decision by saying he had climbed his mountain and reached the peak. At just 31 years old, it was viewed as a premature decision by many of his colleagues and rivals at the time. But Rosberg stated that he decided to retire the moment he crossed the finish line in Abu Dhabi. Rosberg said 2 meters after the line in Abu Dhabi, "If you ask me, when did you decide to retire, that was the moment." Due to the intense rivalry with Hamilton, Rosberg had to retire earlier than planned. The German driver confessed that he had been contemplating retirement as the intensity of his title fight with his Mercedes teammate increased. The 31-year-old had to study Zen philosophy to control his emotions throughout the season. It has been asserted that Rosberg did not inform the higher-ups at Mercedes of his decision until he announced it, and that when he did so, he was nearly in tears while speaking to Toto Wolff on the phone. Rosberg extended his contract with Mercedes, keeping him with the team through the end of 2018. It was possible that he would have received approximately $15.5 million from the German team over the course of the next 3 years had he not retired. The 2016 World Championship had many sponsors associated with his success on the track. After stepping away from the Formula One circuit, a large number of sponsorship deals came to an end. One of these sources is a yearly revenue of $1 million from watch and jewelry designer Thomas Sabo. Because of his tremendous and intense competition with Lewis Hamilton, he was willing to turn down all of these offers. That's one reason why Rosberg still hates Hamilton today. What's your thought about Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton's rivalry? Let me know in the comment section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so that you can always get to watch more amazing videos like this. See you in the next video.